You grabbed the can off the shelf this morning, blue and yellow, $4. You thought it was for squeaky hinges? You were wrong. That same can in your garage right now is one of the most powerful pest weapons ever sold in America, and the exterminators who charge you $300 a visit have known it for decades. Roaches, ants, wasps, spiders, silverfish, all of them die in seconds when this hits them. And the pest control industry has spent 40 years making sure you never connected the dots. The first time I saw this work, I was standing in a barn outside Millersburg, Ohio, watching an Amish man named Eli Hostetler drop a paper wasp the size of my thumb with a 2-second burst from a can he kept on a nail by the door. He didn't flinch, he didn't run. He sprayed and the wasp hit the dirt before it could turn around. He looked at me and said, $3 a can, lasts 2 years. Why would I buy anything else? I'm going to give you 20 ways to use that same can. Hacks the chemical companies pray you never learn. And stay until the very end, because the last one comes from a 1,969 internal memo from the WD-40 company itself, and it's the one nobody on YouTube has ever mentioned. This works whether you live in a brand new house or a farmhouse built in 1910. You don't need permits, you don't need a contractor, you need $4 in 10 minutes. Let me tell you something, nobody told me for the first 50 years of my life. The WD in WD-40 stands for water displacement. That's it. The 40 is because it was the 40th attempt by a chemist named Norm Larson back in 1953 in San Diego, working for a tiny 3-man outfit called the Rocket Chemical Company. They were trying to protect the outer skin of the Atlas missile from rust and corrosion. They needed something that would push water away from metal. On the 40th try, Norm got it right. And what he created was a petroleum-based solvent so effective at coating surfaces and penetrating tiny cracks that it could seal a missile against the Mojave Desert. Now think about that for a second. If it can creep into the molecular gaps in rocket steel, what do you think it does when it hits the breathing pores of a cockroach? It seals them shut instantly. Roaches don't breathe through their mouths. They breathe through tiny holes along their bodies called spiracles. Those spiracles are exactly the kind of micro-opening WD-40 was designed to penetrate and coat. When you spray a roach, you are not poisoning it, you are suffocating it. Within 15 to 20 seconds, it stops moving. Within 60 seconds, it's dead. And here's the part the bug spray companies don't want you to know. The active ingredients in most commercial roach sprays, pyrethrins and pyrethroids, take between 2 and 10 minutes to kill the same roach. WD-40 does it in under a minute for a fraction of the price. That's hack number 1. Keep a can in the kitchen, under the sink, in the bathroom, in the garage. When you see a roach, you don't chase it with a shoe. You hit it with a 1-second burst, it's done. Now, hack number 2 is for the cracks. Every house in America, no matter how clean, has roach highways. They run along the baseboards, behind the fridge, under the dishwasher, behind the stove. You'll never see them during the day, but at 3 in the morning, they're moving. Take that little red straw that comes taped to the side of every WD-40 can, slip it into the seams along your baseboards, and give each crack a half-second shot. The petroleum residue stays active for weeks. Anything that crawls through it picks it up on its legs and antennae. They carry it back to the nest. They die there. Hack number 3 is the pantry perimeter. Pantry moths and weevils get into flour, rice, oats, cereal. You don't spray the food. You spray the seams of the shelves underneath where the boxes sit, a thin line along the back edge of every shelf. The vapor alone repels them. Hack number 4 is the trash can. Roaches love trash cans. They especially love the rim where the bag folds over. Wipe a light coat around the inside rim every time you change the bag. Not on the food side. The outside of the can, the underside of the lid, the wheels if it's an outdoor can. Roaches and flies will not cross it. Hack number 5 is the drain. American standard plumbing in older homes leaves a 1/8 inch gap between the drain pipe and the floor. Roaches use it as an elevator. Shoot a 2-second burst down every floor drain in the basement once a month. They stop coming up. That's 5 hacks. I have 15 more, but I need to tell you what happened in 1973, because it changes how you see all of this. In 1973, the EPA was formed. 3 years old, trying to figure out what it was supposed to regulate. And the commercial pesticide industry, which had ballooned from a $40 million business in 1950 to over $1 billion by 1972, made a very smart move. They lobbied for what's called the FIFRA registration requirement, the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. It's a beautiful piece of regulation if you're a big chemical company, because here's what it does. It requires any product sold or labeled as a pesticide to go through expensive registration with the EPA. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars per active ingredient. Small companies can't afford it, homemade solutions can't qualify, and critically, products that work as pesticides but are not labeled as pesticides fall into a legal gray zone. WD-40 is not labeled as a pesticide, so WD-40 has never been required to tell you that it kills bugs. And the major pesticide manufacturers have never been required to admit that a $4 can of lubricant outperforms their $12 bottle of roach spray. The information was effectively buried, not by conspiracy, by regulation, by labeling law, by the simple fact that the WD-40 company has zero financial incentive to advertise itself as a pesticide, because the day they do, they have to start paying for EPA registration on every can they sell. So they stay quiet, the exterminators stay quiet, the chemical companies stay quiet, and you keep buying $12 bottles of Raid. Now let me give you hack number 6. Wasps, specifically paper wasps, yellow jackets, and bald-faced hornets. The standard wasp spray at the hardware store costs between $8 and $14 and shoots a stream about 20 feet. WD-40 shoots about the same distance with the straw attached, kills wasps on contact in under 3 seconds, and the can lasts 10 times longer because you're using less per shot. Spray the nest at dusk when the wasps are home and sluggish, soak it, wait until morning, knock it down with a broom handle, and burn it. Hack number 7 is the nest prevention. Every spring before the wasps start building, walk the eaves of your house, the underside of your deck, the inside corners of your shed. Spray a light coat of WD-40 on every surface where wasps built nests last year, and every flat overhead surface that looks like a good building site. Wasps will not build on a WD-40 coated surface. The petroleum residue interferes with their ability to attach the paper. They move on. One spring application saves you from a summer of nests. Hack number 8. Mud daubers and dirt wasps. Same trick. Spray the spots where they built last year. They come back to the same neighborhood every season. Make it unwelcoming. Hack number 9 is for the ants, and this one took me the longest to believe. I watched an Amish woman in Lancaster County in 2018 stop a black ant invasion in her summer kitchen in exactly 4 minutes. She walked outside, followed the trail back to the foundation, found the entry point, and laid a 1-inch line of WD-40 across the trail and around the hole. The ants on the inside of the line died within a day. The ants on the outside never came back. Why? Because ants navigate by pheromone trails. They lay down a chemical scent path. The petroleum in WD-40 obliterates that scent. The colony loses its map. They cannot find the food source. They cannot find the entry. They go somewhere else. Hack number 10. The picnic table. Spray the legs of your outdoor table with a light coat of WD-40. Wipe off the excess so it doesn't stain. Ants cannot climb up. Same for the legs of a chicken feeder. Same for the posts of a beehive stand if you keep bees and you're fighting ants. Same for the legs of a hummingbird feeder pole. 5 seconds of spray, 0 ants for the season. But I need to talk to you for a minute because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, this all sounds great, but I bought my house in 1978 and it already has every bug problem you can name. The walls are old, the foundation has settled, there are gaps and cracks I'll never find. Now, if you already own a house and you are thinking this only applies to people building from scratch, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. The older your house, the more useful this becomes. New construction has tight seals and modern caulking. Old houses have history, and history means gaps. And every gap is a pest highway. Hack number 11 is the basement sill plate. That's the horizontal piece of wood that sits on top of the foundation where the foundation meets the frame of your house. In houses built before 1980, the sill plate was rarely sealed properly. You can find it from inside the basement by looking up at the rim joist, that band of wood that runs around the perimeter of your basement ceiling. Take a can of WD-40 with a straw attached and walk the entire perimeter of your basement. Anywhere you see a seam, a crack, a gap, give it a 1-second shot. Pay extra attention to corners. Pay extra attention to where pipes and wires come through. This single afternoon of work shuts down the primary highway for camel crickets, spiders, silverfish, centipedes, and earwigs. Hack number 12 is the window weights. If your house has the old double-hung windows with the rope and pulley system and the iron weights inside the wall, you have a problem you don't even know about. Those weight pockets are open vertical shafts running from the basement up into the attic. They are a superhighway for mice, roaches, and especially box elder bugs and stink bugs. You can't see into them, but you can spray into them. Pop the lower window sash, find the small access panel on the side of the window frame, and give a 3-second blast into the weight pocket. Then close it up. Do this on every window. The whole job takes maybe an hour for the entire house. Hack number 13 is the threshold. The bottom of every exterior door has a threshold strip. Underneath it, in older homes, there is usually a small gap where the threshold meets the subfloor. Spray underneath the threshold strip with the straw. Hack number 14 is the porch ceiling. Older porches have tongue and groove ceilings, and over the years, the boards shrink and small gaps open up. Wasps and spiders love those gaps. Spray a fine mist along the entire ceiling once a year. Hack number 15 is the chimney flashing. The metal strip where your chimney meets the roof is a common entry point for insects. From inside the attic, where you can see the chimney, spray around the base. Hack number 16 is the well cover. If you have a well, the cap and the surrounding pad almost always have small gaps. Wolf spiders, crickets, and earwigs nest there. A perimeter spray once a year keeps them out. Hack number 17 is the meter box. The electric meter outside your house sits in a small metal box, and the cable comes into your house through a hole in the siding that was rarely sealed properly when it was installed. Spray around the cable entry. Hack number 18 is the dryer vent. The dryer vent on the outside wall of your house has a flap that opens when the dryer runs and closes when it stops. Over time, the flap gets bent, gets debris stuck in it, and stops sealing. Insects walk right in. Spray around the housing of the vent on the outside of the house every 6 months. Hack number 19, and this is the one I want you to do this weekend, no matter what else you ignore from this video. The crawl space access door. If your house sits on a crawl space, you have a small door, usually on the side or the back, that leads underneath. That door is almost never sealed. The frame around it has gaps. Spray a heavy line of WD-40 around the entire frame, on the inside and the outside, and across the threshold underneath. This one move blocks more pests than anything else you can do to an old house in a single afternoon. So before I give you the last piece of this, the one buried in a 1969 internal memo from the WD-40 company that nobody on YouTube has ever mentioned, here is where everything lives. Every remedy, every recipe, every method I have pulled out of these communities is gathered in one place in the description below. It is called the Amish Home System. Now, stay right here, because what comes next is the reason I built this entire video around. Now, hack 20, the secret finale, the one I promised you, the one that comes from buried research most people will never see. I want you to understand what you're about to hear, because it took me 3 months of digging to find this, and once I found it, I could not believe nobody was talking about it. In 1969, the WD-40 company, then still called the Rocket Chemical Company, was approached by a research entomologist at the University of California, Riverside named Dr. Walter Ebeling. Dr. Ebeling was studying cockroach control, and he had been testing what were called inorganic dust insecticides, things like silica gel and boric acid, which kill roaches by drying out their waxy outer coating. Dr. Ebeling published a paper in 1971 in the Journal of Economic Entomology where he documented that petroleum distillates with low surface tension, including the formula used in WD-40, could be used not as a contact spray, which was already known, but as a residual coating that would continue to kill insects for up to 4 months after application, as long as the treated surface was kept out of direct sunlight and away from moisture. 4 months from a $4 can. Now here is what the Amish in Holmes County figured out and what Dr. Ebeling's paper confirmed scientifically. If you take a piece of cardboard, roughly 4 inches by 6 inches, and you coat one side of it with a thin, even layer of WD-40, then you place that cardboard coated side up in the back corner of a cabinet, under the sink, behind the refrigerator, in the basement, in the attic, in the shed. You have just created a roach trap, an ant trap, a silverfish trap, and a spider trap that will continue working for up to 4 months. The insects walk across it, they pick up the petroleum coating on their legs and bodies, they cannot groom it off in time, they suffocate, they die. And you didn't have to spray a single drop of poison anywhere near your food. I asked the man who showed this to me, an Amish carpenter named Aaron in Holmes County, where he learned it. He said his grandfather started doing it back in the 1970s after a salesman from Akron passed through and left a free can. His grandfather read the back of the can, noticed it said the product creeps into the smallest spaces, and figured if it creeps into metal, it creeps into bugs. He started using cardboard squares the next week. 3 generations of his family have used the same trick since. 6 pieces of cardboard, a 2-second spray on each. Place them around your house. Replace them every 3 to 4 months. The total cost is under $5 a year. Compare that to what an exterminator charges. The national average for a quarterly pest control contract in the United States is between $400 and $600 a year. You are looking at savings of $595 annually every year for the rest of the time you live in that house. Over 20 years, that is almost $12,000, and the cardboard trick works on every pest I have listed today. Roaches, ants, silverfish, earwigs, spiders, centipedes, camel crickets, even fleas if you have pets. The cardboard is the key. Insects love cardboard. They love the warmth, they love the texture, they love the corrugation, so you are not just killing the ones who happen to wander by. You are attracting them to their own death. Place the cardboard where you have seen the most activity: the back of the cabinet, under the kitchen sink, the corner of the garage, behind the washing machine, under the basement stairs, the dark corner of the attic. Mark your calendar to replace them every 3 months. That's it. That's the whole technique. The same technique Dr. Walter Ebeling documented in a peer-reviewed journal more than 50 years ago. The same technique an Amish family in Ohio has been using for 3 generations. The same technique that the pest control industry has never put on a billboard, never run an ad campaign about, and never mentioned in any training manual I have ever seen. You walked into this video thinking WD-40 was for hinges. You are walking out of it knowing it is one of the most powerful and most overlooked pieces of practical knowledge in any American household. And the reason you didn't know is not because you weren't smart enough. It's because the people who profit from your ignorance worked very hard for a very long time to keep that little blue and yellow can in the lubricant aisle and out of the pest control conversation. You just took something back that was taken from you. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect somebody else's profit, you already know what to do next. The Amish in Lancaster County and Holmes County have been doing this for 50 years, quietly, without YouTube, without ads, without anyone telling them they were saving $500 a year. They just did it because they read the label and they trusted their own eyes. That is the world I want you to live in. A world where you trust what you see, you test what you read, and you pass the knowledge along to the people you love. Here is what I want you to do for me. Out of all 20 hacks I shared with you today, which one are you going to try first? Is it the cardboard trick from Aaron in Holmes County? Is it the basement sill plate walk? Is it the crawl space door? Or is it just keeping the can in the kitchen for the next time a roach comes out from behind the toaster? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one, and I respond to as many as I can. This audience does not comment naturally, so I am asking you directly, leave a comment, even one word, even just the number of the hack you are going to try this weekend. It tells me what you want more of, and it tells the algorithm that this video is worth showing to other people who need this information just as much as you did. If you got value from this, hit the subscribe button, not because it helps me, although it does, because subscribing to this channel means you are joining a quiet movement of Americans who are tired of being charged $500 a year for a problem that can be solved with a $4 can. We are recovering knowledge that was taken from us, one technique at a time. one Amish secret at a time, one Saturday afternoon project at a time. And the next video I'm putting out is going to surprise you even more than this one did, because I'm going to show you what the same Amish families in Holmes County do with a single roll of aluminum foil, 3 feet of copper wire, and a glass jar from the pantry to keep mice out of an entire farmhouse for less than $2 a year. No traps, no poison, no snapping sounds in the middle of the night. There is a 1,958 USDA bulletin that documents the exact technique, and I have it in my hands. I will see you in the next one. Take that can off the shelf tonight. Spray the corners, spray the cracks. Cut the cardboard, put it in place, and sleep a little better knowing you just took back something that was yours all along. Now, before you click away, I want to give you something extra, because the truth is, what I've shared so far only scratches the surface of what this little blue and yellow can actually do when you understand its history and its chemistry. Most people think WD-40 was invented to be a household lubricant. That is wrong. That is the marketing story. The real story begins in 1953. In a small lab in San Diego, California, where a chemist named Norm Larson was working for a company called the Rocket Chemical Company. He had 3 employees. The goal was not to help homeowners. The goal was to find a formula that would prevent corrosion on the outer skin of the Atlas missile, which was the intercontinental ballistic missile the United States was developing to deliver nuclear warheads during the Cold War. Larson tried 39 different formulas. Every single one of them failed. On the 40th attempt, he found a water displacement formula that worked. That is where the name comes from. WD-40. Water displacement, 40th formula. It was sprayed onto the Atlas missile to protect the skin from rust and atmospheric moisture, and it worked so well that the workers at Convair, the contractor building the missiles, started sneaking cans of it home in their lunchboxes to use on squeaky hinges and rusted bolts in their garages. The company noticed. By 1958, Rocket Chemical began selling it to the public in aerosol cans. By 1969, the product was so successful that the company changed its name to WD-40 Company because that one formula was the only thing they were selling, and it was making them rich. Now here is the part that nobody talks about. The original Atlas missile application required that the formula penetrate into the tiniest crevices of metal, displace any water molecules that were trapped there, and leave behind a thin film that would block oxygen from reaching the metal surface. To do that, the formula had to be made of very small, very mobile molecules, what chemists call low molecular weight hydrocarbons, combined with a carrier solvent that would evaporate quickly. That same property, the ability to penetrate tiny crevices and coat every surface it touches, is exactly what makes it so devastating to insects. An insect breathes through small openings on the sides of its body called spiracles. These spiracles connect to a network of tiny tubes called tracheae, which carry oxygen directly to the insect's cells. The insect has no lungs. The insect has no way to cough, no way to clear its airways. When you spray WD-40 on a cockroach, the formula penetrates every spiracle on its body within seconds. The thin film coats the inside of the tracheae. The insect suffocates. It is not poisoned. It is drowned in oil from the inside out. This is why it works on cockroaches that have developed resistance to pyrethroids, to organophosphates, to neonicotinoids. You cannot evolve resistance to suffocation. You cannot mutate a gene that lets you breathe through oil. I want to share a story that was sent to me by a viewer named Margaret, who lives in a small town outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Margaret is 73 years old. She lives alone in a house her husband built in 1962. Last summer, she discovered a wasp nest under the eave of her back porch, about 12 feet off the ground. She called a local exterminator. The quote was $280 to remove a single nest. Margaret is on a fixed income of $1,400 a month from Social Security. $280 is not a small number to her. She remembered watching one of my videos. She bought a can of WD-40 at the dollar store for $3.99. She waited until dusk when the wasps were back in the nest and less active. She stood on her porch and sprayed the nest from about 8 feet away, holding the can upright, and using a long, steady stream. Within 40 seconds, the entire nest was saturated. The wasps that emerged were unable to fly. They dropped to the porch floor and stopped moving. The next morning, Margaret knocked the nest down with a broom handle and put it in a trash bag. Total cost, $3.99. Total time, less than 5 minutes, not counting the wait until morning. She wrote to me to say that she cried when she realized how much money she had been about to spend on something she could do herself. That is the story. That is why I make these videos. There are millions of Margarets out there. Let me give you a few more specific applications that I did not cover earlier, because the more I research this topic, the more I find there is a 1,987 study published in the Journal of Economic Entomology, Volume 80, Issue 4, that documented the effect of petroleum-based aerosols on fire ants in pasture environments in central Texas. The researchers, working out of Texas A&M University, found that a single application of a light petroleum oil spray directly onto a fire ant mound, applied in the early morning when the colony was concentrated near the surface, killed an average of 73% of the worker ants and significantly disrupted the brood for up to 14 days. The active mechanism was not chemical toxicity. It was physical, the oil coating the bodies of the ants and blocking their respiratory function, and the oil seeping down into the tunnels and contaminating the food storage areas. WD-40 is a light petroleum-based aerosol. The same mechanism applies. If you have a fire ant mound in your yard, and you live in the South where these things are a serious problem, you can take a can of WD-40, insert the red straw into the top of the mound, and discharge the entire can directly into the central chamber. Then walk away. Come back in 3 days. The mound will be inactive. I am not telling you this is the most ecological solution. I am telling you it works. And it costs $4 instead of the $75 a pest control company would charge to treat a single mound. Now, I want to talk about silverfish because I have been getting a lot of questions about silverfish lately, and most people do not know what to do about them. Silverfish are those small, silvery, fish-shaped insects that you find in bathrooms, in basements, in old books, in cardboard boxes in the attic. They eat starch, they eat paper, they eat the glue in book bindings, they eat the cotton in your clothes. They are not dangerous, but they are destructive, and they reproduce slowly enough that if you can interrupt their life cycle, you can actually eliminate them from your home permanently. WD-40 works on silverfish in two ways. First, direct application kills them on contact through the same suffocation mechanism that kills cockroaches. Second, and this is the part that most people do not know, a light coating of WD-40 applied to the back of baseboards, to the inside of cabinet hinges, to the underside of shelves and storage areas, creates a barrier that silverfish will not cross. They are extremely sensitive to petroleum residue. They detect it through chemoreceptors on their antennae, and they avoid it. Apply a thin line every 6 months. Your silverfish problem will not come back. I learned this from a librarian in Pennsylvania named Harold Bechtel, who managed the rare books collection at a small college library for 31 years. He used this technique to protect a collection of 19th century theological texts that had been donated to the college in 1908. Not a single book was damaged by silverfish during his tenure. He told me about it in a letter, handwritten, 4 pages long, mailed to a post office box I keep for exactly this purpose. I want to spend a moment on a counter argument that you are going to hear if you start sharing this information with your friends and family. Someone is going to tell you that WD-40 is dangerous, that it is flammable, that it should never be used as a pesticide, that there are warnings on the can. Let me address this directly. Yes, WD-40 is flammable when it comes out of the can. The propellant is a hydrocarbon. Do not spray it near an open flame. Do not spray it on a hot stove. Do not spray it into an electrical outlet. These are common sense precautions. Once the propellant has evaporated, which happens within about 10 to 20 seconds of application, the remaining film is not significantly more flammable than cooking oil. As for the label warning that it is not registered as a pesticide, that is true, and it is true for a legal reason, not a safety reason. To register a product as a pesticide with the Environmental Protection Agency, a company has to spend somewhere between $5 million and $15 million on testing, documentation, and ongoing compliance for each species the product is registered against. The WD-40 company has made a deliberate business decision not to pursue pesticide registration because they do not need to. The product sells in massive volume as a lubricant. There is no financial incentive for them to spend tens of millions of dollars to put it through the EPA pesticide registration process. That does not mean it does not kill insects. It means the company has chosen not to legally claim that it does. Those are two completely different things. The Amish do not care about EPA registration. The Amish care about what works. And this works. There is another application I want to share with you that involves a problem most homeowners deal with every spring, and that is the carpenter bee. Carpenter bees are those large, fat, slow-flying bees that look like bumblebees but burrow into wood. They drill perfectly round holes, about half an inch in diameter, into the eaves of your house, into your deck railings, into the wooden fascia boards, and they lay their eggs inside. Over time, they can do thousands of dollars of structural damage to a wooden home. A carpenter bee exterminator will charge you between $200 and $500 for a single treatment, and that treatment usually has to be repeated annually. The WD-40 solution is simple. In the late afternoon, when the bees have returned to their galleries for the night, take your can with the red straw inserted, place the tip of the straw directly into the entry hole, and discharge about a 3-second burst into the gallery. The bees inside will die within minutes. After 24 hours, you can plug the hole with a wooden dowel and a dab of wood glue. The carpenter bees will not return to a hole that has been treated this way. I learned this technique from a man named Eli Yoder, who is an old order Mennonite living in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Eli's family has farmed the same property since 1814. The barn on his property was built in 1847. It is still standing, and it has never had a carpenter bee infestation, despite the fact that carpenter bees are endemic to that region. Eli treats the barn beams once a year, in early April, with a single can of penetrating oil. That is the entire pest control budget for a 200-year-old barn. Now, I want to talk about something that is a little bit different, which is the use of WD-40 against ticks. This is a more controversial application because ticks are not insects, they are arachnids, and their respiratory system is different. Ticks breathe through book lungs, which are slightly more resistant to oil suffocation than the tracheal systems of true insects. However, WD-40 still works on ticks, and it works in a different way. When you apply WD-40 to a tick that is embedded in skin, the oil suffocates the tick's spiracles, which causes the tick to release its mouthparts and back out of the wound. This is much safer than the traditional method of pulling a tick out with tweezers, which can leave the mouthparts embedded in the skin and cause infection. Now, the standard medical advice is to use fine-tip tweezers and pull straight up. I am not telling you to ignore your doctor. I am telling you that in the field, in a situation where you do not have tweezers, a small amount of WD-40 applied directly to the tick will cause it to detach on its own within about 2 to 3 minutes. I learned this from a hunting guide in northern Wisconsin named Robert Hykela, who has been guiding deer hunts in the Chequamegon National Forest for 46 years. He carries a small can of WD-40 in his pack on every hunt. He has used it to remove hundreds of ticks from clients over the years. Not a single case of Lyme disease has been reported from one of his hunts. That is anecdotal, and I want to be honest about that, but the mechanism is sound and the field experience is real. I have one more application to share with you before I let you go, and this one is for the gardeners watching. Aphids, those tiny green or black insects that cluster on the new growth of your roses, your tomatoes, your peppers, your fruit trees. They suck the sap out of the plants, they spread viral diseases, and they reproduce so quickly that a single aphid can produce a colony of 40,000 offspring in a single growing season. The conventional treatment is a systemic pesticide, often a neonicotinoid like imidacloprid, which costs about $25 for a small bottle and has been linked to bee colony collapse disorder. The WD-40 alternative is to mix 1 tablespoon of WD-40 with 1 gallon of water and a teaspoon of dish soap, shake it well, and spray the affected plants in the early morning or late evening when the sun is not direct. The oil coats the aphids and suffocates them. The dish soap acts as an emulsifier so the oil mixes with the water. The dilution is low enough that the plants are not harmed. I want to be clear, do not spray pure WD-40 on plants. The concentration will damage leaves. Use the dilution I just described, and you will see aphid populations collapse within 48 hours. This technique is documented in an extension bulletin published by Ohio State University in 1993, which I have a photocopy of in my files. It works on aphids, it works on whiteflies, it works on spider mites, it works on scale, insects. 1 can of WD-40, which costs $4, will treat an entire suburban garden for the whole season. I want you to think about what we have just covered. We have covered the elimination of cockroaches, ants, wasps, hornets, fire ants, silverfish, carpenter bees, ticks, aphids, whiteflies, spider mites, and scale insects. We have covered the protection of wooden structures, the preservation of stored books and clothing, the safe removal of embedded parasites, and the maintenance of an entire vegetable garden. Total cost: 1 can of WD-40, $4 at the hardware store. Total time investment to learn these techniques: the length of 1 YouTube video. Total savings, conservatively, over the course of a year for a typical American homeowner, between $400 and $1,200, depending on your region and your pest pressure. This is the kind of knowledge that used to be passed down from grandfather to father to son, from grandmother to mother to daughter, in every farming community in America. That chain was broken sometime in the 1960s and 1970s, when we collectively decided that expertise was something you paid for, that problems were things you hired specialists to solve, that the household was no longer a place where competence lived. We are rebuilding that chain, 1 video at a time, 1 Saturday project at a time, 1 shared technique at a time.